learners, I welcome you all to the 36th lecture for the course on International Investment Law and the Environment. So, in this week, we've again started a new week, that is 8th week of the course. So, in this week also, we will be looking at some of the past decided cases. So, we are going to start our discussion of this week with the case Allard versus Barbados. And like I told you in the last video itself, this is a very interesting case, at least I find it interesting, because all other cases typically that you will see is that an environmental measure of the host state would be challenged by the investor, right? But in this case, what we see here is the investor had made an allegation against the host state that it has failed to protect the environment. But why would an investor do so? Because the investor had invested in an ecotourism sector, and that is why. So basically the essence is that there's been a monetary loss to the investor, and therefore an investment dispute was filed against the host state. The host state here is Barbados. The investor is Peter Allard. Peter Allard is a Canadian national. So the BIT that was used was Canada Barbados BIT. And what was the investment that he had made? In fact, there was a wetland of around 240 acres to the southern coast of Barbados, and in that wetland he had managed to establish a Graham Hall Bird Sanctuary, a sanctuary. So basically it established a sanctuary, and the sanctuary extended to 34.25 acres of land out of the 240 acres of the wetland. So now this was an investment, and how did he get to purchase the land for the sanctuary? That was done in 3 installments. He first bought it in 1996, 1998 and 1999 as well. So he bought it in the 3 installments, and this all started initially in 1995 when Mr. Mark Cummins, a city town officer, he had written to the claimant saying that there is this Great Hall Swamp and that is earmarked for recreational and agricultural purposes, and there was also a National Physical Development Plan of 1986. So under that plan, this particular place can only be used for recreational and agriculture purpose. So we'll refer to this as the 1986 plan, National Physical Development Plan of 1986, relating to this particular land. So then, as per this plan, it was can be used for recreation activity. So that is what was mentioned in Mark Cummins' letter also. So that he could make an investment, and he can run a sanctuary, an ecotourism, and then he can earn profits out of it, right? So initially, then by the time he bought the second parcel of land and everything, he had to submit an environmental management plan, which is again rejected by the chief town officer, and then he had to revise it. And what is it that he had to show here was how the drainage plan will work, including a sluice gate. So actually the sanctuary was located in a wetland place, and the sanctuary contained mangroves, and it contained some lakes, some ponds and all of that, and basically the waterways of the sanctuary was connected through the ocean through a canal, and this, at the end of this canal there was a gate, a sluice gate. So the management of the sluice gate was very crucial for the subject matter of this dispute. So I am just mentioning about where the sluice gate was located. The sanctuary was connected to ocean through the sluice gate, and for mangroves you need a saltwater brackish to be there, and salt water should be there. That is when mangrove thrives. So you need the passage of water to the mangrove and all of that. So sluice gate's operation becomes crucial. So at the end of the canal there was a sluice gate that was there, and when he submitted an environmental management plan, so he had to provide for a drainage plant and how the sluice gate will be used and all of that. So that's something that, and he amended it, and that was submitted. So eventually what happened was he opened the bird sanctuary. He had built a broad network of broad walks and observation desk and visitors lounge and public restrooms. So all of these cafes and all of these. So he had built all of these inside the bird sanctuary, and the ponds were also there for migratory birds. And then commercial animal food preparation center, that was also there, and other elements that he needed to run his operation of ecotourism. So this is what his sanctuary was like, and eventually he opened it in mid 2000s. So after he opened the bird sanctuary to public, his source of revenue was from the number of people who visit the sanctuary, the ticket cost, and and the selling of the products inside the sanctuary. All of these were supposed to get him a revenue. Now, few months after he had opened the sanctuary, there was a failure at one of the sewage plant in Barbados, which is operated by Barbados Authority. And what happened was, then they had to, as an emergency measure, they had to dump that into Graham Hall swamp, and then they were constantly monitoring the water levels, whether there's been the toxic compounds have been released to the environment, that they monitor. But as an emergency measure, they had to release those substances into the Graham Hall swamp. So then later on, what happened was, there was so then there were issues with regard to Sluice Gate also, that I will discuss in the next segment. Then also there was a change with regard to the National Physical Development Plan. So this development plan was adopted in 2008. However, the plan is referred to as the 2003 plan, right? So we'll also use that same term, 2003 plan, but it was adopted in 2008. So the earlier plan was 1986 plan, now 2003 plan had come, and in this plan what had happened was, they had reclassified the northern part of the sanctuary to be a residential zone as well as an urban corridor. So earlier the sanctuary got the protected status because as per the 1986 plan, this is supposed to be a place for recreational and agriculture use. But now the new plan says that there can be residential activities as well as it can be an urban corridor as well. So all of these had affected the operation of his investment. Then eventually he tried to sell his sanctuary and he could not do it. But by the time of the dispute, he had closed his sanctuary. So only that visitor centers was operating as a cafe. So that was the only operational part of the investment. Nothing else was there. He had closed down the sanctuary. So this is it. But since in this case he had stated that Barbados had failed to sort of protect the environment, contributed to the environmental degradation, that had affected his investment, since he was supposed to earn revenue by the number of visitors who visit the sanctuary, ticket cost, and then sale from the sale of goods and all of that, right? So that could not happen. So Barbados had failed to protect his investment by contributing to the environmental degradation and by failing to protect the fragile environment. And then he stated that all of these violated fair and equitable treatment clause, FPS clause, expropriation and all of that. So before we move on to discuss the merits of this case, we will discuss the decision of the tribunal with regard to environmental degradation. His entire case is dependent upon the fact that Barbados had contributed the environmental degradation. So on the facts of the case, he had to prove that there was environmental degradation and that the reason for such an environmental degradation was Barbados. Only then he can make a case against Barbados. So that is something that the tribunal decided before moving on to the merits of this case. So we'll discuss the tribunal's decision with regard to these questions in the next segment of this lecture. Thank you.